All right, we've come back to Ashburn. We have not yet made our way to the couches, but we're here with Kevin O'Connell, Redskins offensive coordinator. When you got that title, and you think back to then and how things have gotten to this point, getting ready to go into the second preseason game, how has your life changed from, say, this 6-month stretch last year?
It's a good question. I mean, really, I look at it as it's been, when Jay came to me and first offered me the possibility of making the transition to the offensive coordinator role, a lot of what he talked about has kind of come to fruition as far as getting to put together really good off-season plans for our guys and what we want to install, what we want to make sure our guys are learning, how they learn it, what the teaching progression of things are throughout the off-season. And then for me, kind of through training camp, really starting to take note of who we are as an offense. You get through the installation phase. We have quarterbacks competing. We've got guys competing really in every room right now for whatever roles, some to make the team, some to be starters. So as we start to get towards the middle of August here and towards the end of the month, we really start to try to figure out what we are, who we are, where we want people doing what, and really start to kind of put together what we're going to be in 2019.
When you think about your job of making this offense a cohesive, schematic operation, I know that was one of the things that was a big criticism last year. The run game, the pass game don't necessarily always match up. Trying to make sure that the ball's going to the right places in the right situations, which was an impossible task for last year because the right situations were often hurt.
Yeah.
And then they'd come back and someone else and trying to figure it out. How do you feel like that process has gone of marrying it up? What kind of changes have you been able to make and kind of, I know you can't talk specifics, but making sure that everyone's styles come together, all the coaches are comfortable calling it, so the players are comfortable running it?
Yeah, I think, you've been out there every day in training camp. We're trying to have some sameness and likeness to what we do, make it really hard for defenses to know pre-snap based upon who's in the game, based upon where people line up, where Jordan is, where Chris is, all these things, when they're in the game at the same time. I know that defensive coordinators are studying those numbers and the pro football focused numbers, and they at least percentages-wise can have a feel for what we are and who we are when you're putting together a defensive game plan against some of the things that maybe cause them challenges that we do. So we've tried to really, peel it back and look at it from that perspective. See not only where we could put our personnel in the best possible situations, but do it in the confines of sameness and likeness and understanding first and second down. If it all looks the same and we have packages off of how defenses are going to play certain runs, whether it be, our traditional run game or some of our spread stuff that we got into last year, we have recourse. We have the next call should be on the tip of everybody's tongue if we truly have it dialed in like I think we're going to, and I think we do. So I feel really, really good about that from that standpoint. And then it's just about personnel, figuring out who's going to be that guy, taking the top off, getting Paul back healthy. Richardson outside will be big. Obviously, Terry McLaurin has been a huge addition just to that room and everything, his entire skill set, what he brings to that room. Josh Doxson still being there, being a reliable target for us, both as an opportunity ball type guy, but also, people don't give Josh enough credit sometimes for flat out running by people. He can do that as well. Trey Quinn inside, Jordan, Vernon, Chris Thompson. I mean, I could name the whole gamut of skill players, and you can start to, in the back of my mind, I start thinking about how we're going to place those guys in what roles to give them the best possible chance of success. But for me, your question hit the nail on the head because we want to run the football however we have to run the football that given week. I think it can change week to week, and then tying in the play passes and the keepers and your drop back and quick game formations into that. So when you're standing over on the sideline with the quarterback showing them pictures of formations, you could say, hey, when we call this play, this is what the look is going to be. This is what I want you to do. And you take some of the indecision out, especially for Case being a veteran quarterback. He's great at retaining information, but he is trying to gain experience in this system. Colt obviously has the experience in the system, but he doesn't have the playtime experience. And then Dwayne, it being completely new to him, it may be, hopefully, if we're able to do what we're trying to do here, I think it'll make it a smooth transition to whoever ends up winning that starting job.
Let's zoom out a little farther before we zoom into some individual guys. When you think about offensive philosophy, if I just say those words to you, like what starts going through your head?
I think really in the NFL, you can have the philosophies that you want. I think you have core principles that you believe in. how you want to put together offenses, how you want to call the plays.
So, what are your core principles? What's Kevin O'Connell, offensive coordinator, bring to an offensive staff that you are saying these are the things that I think are my strengths?
What I like to tell the offense and what I
By the way, you're now interviewing again. You thought you got the job. This is actually a test that
every time I talk to you, I feel like this is pseudo interview, pseudo. This is going to be posted as out there for my next interview. I'm only worried about this job, by the way.
Yes,
you're trying to make me worry about others. But
no,
in this case,
your offensive philosophy is pretty important. You're the offensive coordinator.
It's very important. You're exactly right, and I think it marries, and it's very much in line with Jay.
Right.
And really, when this offense has been at its best, that philosophy and my philosophy is really simple. You want a first and second down. You want to establish the line of scrimmage and run the football. However that may be. I believe very much in multiple schemes, being multiple in your run game to best take advantage of the weakness of the defense that week. You could look in our division alone, and you could really see, between the powerful interior guys on some teams we're going to see early, the other teams with their, outstanding edge rushers, some teams in the division with, premier safeties that can fill in the run game. What are you doing in the run game to make sure that you have the ability to lean on that defense on first and second down, try to establish a line of scrimmage, have a plan in place that then your rest of your system, your rest of your offense can then be triggered by that, whether it's the play pass game, the quick game, the drop back pass, have a purpose and a plan, but it all needs to be centered around running the football. And that's why I've always said that those 5 guys up front for us are so important. We think very, very highly of our ability to not only ground and pound, but also get out on the perimeter and run some of the perimeter game, the spread game. The versatility of that group is what our identity is built around. And then everything else comes from there, and trying to put the skill players and mainly the quarterback. You notice I didn't start with the quarterback there. If you build it the right way offensively, the quarterback can be in a system where his job is just to distribute, make sure we're in the right plays, the right looks, and then let his talent take over from there as far as accuracy, timing, anticipation. But if you put it together in the right way, based around running the football, based around the play pass and keeper game, we could worry about third down and red zone and 2-minute to really hone in on making it about the quarterback. Really, we want to build everything around the structure of those guys up front and our skill players around the quarterback.
Well, I'm going to ask you about the quarterbacks in a second because I don't want to get fired, and that's my job is to ask you the things that people want to know about.
I'm surprised we got 5 minutes in here.
Well, we got to ease into it. I'll ask you the more fun one then. Since we're starting with the line, how much does your identity change if 71's not here?
It does. There's no denying that, and every Redskin fan out there knows that he's an elite player. Obviously, nobody wants him back more than me. I'm right up there with every other guy walking around the halls of this building right now. We want him back badly. But we feel good about the depth that we have over there on that left side. It's still sorting itself out, both at the guard position and the tackle position. But I'll tell you what's been a real bonus and a plus is getting that center, the right guard, and the right tackle back playing together. We feel, obviously, those guys have been playing together now a while, and we feel really good about that. But as far as the depth goes with the draft picks, Wes Martin, Ross Persblockler from Alabama, and then obviously the free agents that we've brought in here, we feel good about the depth. Now it's just figuring out who those 5 guys are going to be and then letting them get as many reps as they possibly can. But there's no doubt if Trent, you're out there and you're listening, man, we'd love to have you back as soon as possible.
Yeah, and Trent, if you're watching, you can call me too. Just tell me what's going on. It's gonna be helpful for me since we're making pitches and all. Kevin O'Connell with us here on 106.7 The Fan. All right, let's do the quarterback thing. Then I want to ask you about some of the skill guys. I think what's interesting in my observation of it, and I asked Jay about this the other day, and he seemed to agree with the premise of the question, is that I don't feel like the needle has moved a whole lot since you guys drafted Dwayne in terms of the quarterback hierarchy. Maybe Case and Colt have flipped a couple times, and but it hasn't moved a whole lot. So let's start with this before I even get to that. Do you guys, even if you refuse to talk about it, do you guys have a depth chart somewhere in the building? Like, are you guys constantly moving it up and down, even in your head? Maybe like, all right, I think if we started the season today, Case would be the guy or Colt would be the guy. Like, how much are you thinking about that versus not even trying to create an order and we'll worry about it sometime before the opener?
Yeah, I don't. To be honest with you, Craig, I don't worry about the depth chart, what's on paper, all that stuff. I worry about reps and what kind of reps guys are getting. How many 2 minutes has this guy had? How many third down blitz periods has this guy had? Do we have enough of the bits and pieces throughout our time in Richmond to know where a guy like Case needs to improve or where Dwayne or Colt needs to improve. When I look at it, I really see three guys that have split the reps pretty evenly. I mean, Colt's been, there was a couple days where he was held out just as scheduled kind of off days. But for the most part, all those guys have had great days. Some of those guys, for the most part, would have throws here and there they'd love to have back, plays where, the volume of the installation maybe overwhelmed them and they're not quite executing the way we need them to operate. And then just continuing to work technique and fundamentals. That cannot be lost on the guys when they're in a competition. So many times you get to, three guys taking reps to try to become a starter. It becomes about production and results and results and results. And you don't really, dwell on, well, why are you not making that throw? Where's your back foot hitting where your feet and eyes need to be set to number one? Why are they not? Well, I was looking at the post safety. Well, why are you looking at the post safety? In this particular play, we don't need you to. Maybe on that play or other concepts we do, and just the kind of the co-mingling of all that information in their heads, that can make it hard to just say, okay, this is the depth chart right now. Because you don't take in game plan into effect. You don't take in the fact that what it'll look like maybe it's August 14th, what it'll look like at the end of this month. It can be a completely different order in our minds, whether we have one or not. It really doesn't matter at this point. And that's important to let the quarterbacks know that, and we tell them all the time. And then I think they can tell by, okay, I started this period, and then the next period I'm getting the 3 reps, and then I'm the 2, and then it's all part of a plan to make sure at the end of this thing we have healthy amount of reps for all 3 guys, and we can really calculate not only who's going to start, but like in Dwayne's case, where do we need to go from a development standpoint? If he is starting, what is he doing well? Where do we need to make sure that we're coaching him on a minute-to-minute basis to improve some of the weaknesses that we're able to kind of establish throughout the month of August?
So the horse race is not that interesting. Obviously, the process part is, and that's kind of goes back to my lengthy rambling preamble to the last question. Are you surprised that there's maybe not a little bit clearer view and that things have generally stayed the same, or do you not necessarily even agree with that premise?
I'm not surprised at all that it's kind of stayed like that, just because we have the 3 right guys competing. Just because it hasn't changed doesn't mean there hasn't been real bright spots. In all 3 of their cases, I can think of those guys having really, really good days and really taking the classroom out to the field, and then it's just about the consistency of it. How much can we apply from an information standpoint that they can digest and then take to the field with them, and then turn the page and move on to the next day and start either banking that stuff as known information and reps that we can go back to when we need to, versus moving forward with more of the volume of the offense. But everybody wants to call it a horse race. I would look at it more as watching a marathon. It's more of, do you really care who's on mile marker 12 of a 26.2 marathon?
Analogy I
do you
use,
care who's winning or
it's
who's
like
losing?
the political stuff going on right now, right? Eventually we're going to have all the caucuses and all that kind of stuff, and there's all this polling that everyone obsesses over now. It's like, okay, it's a snapshot in time, but it doesn't mean anything about who's going to be the eventual nominee.
Yeah,
that's kind of the analogy I use. So you guys aren't interested in the polling?
And no, and I stay away from all the political analogies I can, and just
it's
go
safe. It's not partisan. No one's going to get mad.
And just go back to the fact that at this point in whatever race, political, sports, horse racing, whatever it may be, do you really care? Who's in the lead? At the quarter pole or at the halfway mark, knowing that there's still more games, there's still more practices. The folks at home and the fans and everybody out there get to see the games, but they don't understand that there's over 500 reps that are on tape from Richmond that are being evaluated in the same light. And obviously we care about the games because you get to see when the lights come on what type of version of these players come out at all positions, not just quarterback, but we don't discount a Tuesday practice in Richmond as far as this is just another training camp practice. All those reps will be stacked and evaluated, and at the end of this thing, I think we'll feel pretty good about where we're at offensively.
All right, let's get to some of the skill guys. Are you surprised at how good Terry McLaurin is as a receiver right now?
I can remember being at the pro day. I stood about 15 feet behind Dwayne, 15 yards behind Dwayne while he was throwing, they would huddle up each time after, a rack of plays, and it was a very well done pro day. But watching those guys, Paris Campbell was another receiver I really liked on tape. I loved Terry on tape just for a lot of the things that maybe don't jump out at you for, being a college wideout. I mean, he blocked incredibly well. He obviously, his special teams prowess, his time speed showed up. But his route running and his ability to catch the football all showed up that day. So I remember leaving there, Jay and I were both there, and going, hey, did you see, 83 really kind of popped. And obviously Paris Campbell, I think that day kind of tweaked his ankle or whatever happened, but we liked him as well.
Yeah. I think the story goes, didn't Campbell tweak his ankle and Terry took every one of his reps?
And that was going to I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to say in one of those huddles, they were going to cut out all those reps, and that would have probably hurt Dwayne in a sense where, hey, you have a 65, 70 throw pro day script, and all of a sudden it's 45 or 50 throws. Terry said, no, I got it, and would take the double reps and did not miss a beat. And you just kind of saw a guy, the leadership skills, and knowing some of the folks that I did there at Ohio State, they loved talking about Dwayne, everybody there. But there was always a resounding Terry McLaurin.
But we knew that. Like, you've got him now in the building. And
well, there's a reason. All of that, it's one thing to say we like him, but then to get him in the building, I hope we like him.
Well, right. But I think I've gotten the sense that every time his name comes up, like, you guys thought he's going to be a special teams monster from day one.
When you say you guys.
Jay, you... The offensive, like the team in general. Your front
I knew
office guys.
I knew he would help the receiver room.
But this much where he might be a starter from day one?
There was going to be possibility of that.
Really?
And there's still, he's still right in the mix to possibly do that. That's what I talk about with some of those other rooms. That receiver room, the competition amongst that room, that group, I don't know, the perception of that room, but right now, we feel good about that whole thing all the way down to the last guy in the room that's fighting to stay here as well. All of those guys do things on a daily basis that make you excited about that receiver room. Ike Hilliard's done a phenomenal job with not only the young guys and those rookies, but also the veteran guys coming back off injury, P. Rich and Trey Quinn, and then obviously you look at what Josh Doxson's done here from his time here, and I like that room a lot. I like Terry a lot, and I know that where that group is going, we're really, really excited about them.
There's a thing Trey does as a route runner that reminds me of what point guards have started doing in the NBA, coming off pick and rolls, where he just plays the leverage so well.
Yep.
Is that an innate skill, or is that something you think you can teach?
I know Ike Hilliard, his receiver coach, talks a lot about leverage and technique, and one of my favorite things to do is listen to Ike talk to those receivers about coverage and leverage, because he played the game at such a high level, and he's able to kind of give those guys he's got a really good quality about learning the individual player and then figuring out which coaching points based upon what they do and the role we're asking them to do really apply. So that's been really great to see. But I think Trey from day one, going back to last year as a rookie, he's just got such an incredible feel, and I think that the leverage and kind of understanding where he might be able to get away with some offensive contact versus understanding where to avoid the defense's contact that will limit the timing and the development of a concept. So now the quarterback, if he's number one, there's a good chance the quarterback in rhythm is going to be able to say yes or no to him, because he did his job exactly the way we need him to. And that's part of our offense, is that guy in that position. Jameson did such a good job of it over the last few years of being that really good interior option on the other side of Chris Thompson or Jordan Reed or Vernon Davis that can play against one-on-one and win. And that's a huge part of our interior passing game. But also with that, it's what kind of one-on-one coverage is it? Is it inside leverage, outside leverage, off coverage? Are we in a stack? Are we in a bunch? Where all of those little tricks of the trade that he already has as such a young player that I think you're seeing show up on a daily basis. And that's one of the reasons why we're so confident and we're so excited about Trey and that zebra position that we call it.
Yeah. All right, last one. Jordan Reed looks better than he has since 2015 when he tied the team record for touchdowns and was, in my opinion, the second best tight end in the game behind Gronk.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the question is. Like, what's his ceiling? Like, what do you do as you're sitting there? Like, do you just pray for his health every night? Like, what can you do with a guy with that unique of a skill set that you essentially have to throw out if even Vernon Davis, who's incredibly skilled and rare athletically, is in the game, but he's not Jordan? What can you do with a healthy Jordan Reed that this offense has been missing for 2.5 years while he's been hurt?
First of all, I agree with you. I remember being in Cleveland at the time in 15 and watching, I had some relationships with some of the coaches here at the time, and obviously talking to Sean here and there a little bit over the last few years before I got here. Just the answer to that question is very simple. It's anything. And in the pass game with Jordan Reed out there, with the type of coverage that he gets, depending on what defenses really want to decide. Do they want to play him? When we put 2 tight ends on the field and he's one of them, do they want to go small to be able to have better coverage against him? That opens up some things in the run game, but that doesn't necessarily mean, oh, shoot, we can't throw the ball to Jordan. We feel good about him winning one-on-one against just about anybody in this league. So that's the starting point. But then it's the growth of Jordan that I've seen over the last couple of years. He is healthy. That's a huge part of it. But the growth of him really understanding the art of not only running some of the misdirection, change direction routes, but he's played with some verticality this training camp, running up on people, attacking people. People don't give him a lot of credit like maybe they do Vernon for his vertical speed, and Vernon is as elite as the tight end position gets at that vertical speed. But Jordan has the ability to run every vertical route as well as many guys in this league. And then he's got the unbelievable ball skills. He finishes plays. We're just trying to keep him in a good spot right now, both mentally and physically. He's done everything that I've asked, his position coach have asked from day one in the spring. And when guys do that and they've worked as hard as Jordan has and they care about it as much as Jordan does, it makes sense that he's on the cusp of a really big-time season. And I know Jay and myself and everybody else on our offensive staff, we're just going to continue to try to find ways to get him the football, get him touches, and keep his confidence level sky high, because we're a better football team when he's like that.
Yeah. Please stay healthy, Jordan. He's as fun to watch as anybody, so we're rooting for that obviously to happen as well. And a great dude. Which is
absolutely.
Nice.
We got a lot of those. A lot of those around here.
For sure. All right, Shocker, we went long. Thank you for your time. Kevin O'Connell, Redskins offensive coordinator, here with us on The Fan.